Disclaimer, this video is educational and informative in nature. Do not contact anyone shown in this video. Also, this video is discussing steroids. Do not use steroids. This is entirely for educational and entertainment purposes only.
What happens when you pump yourself full of cooking oil and develop freakishly large arms and do this for years at a time? You get this garbage physique now with sacks of oil slowly turning your own tissue necrotic, dying inside of your own skin, rotting underneath the top layer of who you are. Today we're talking about bazooka hands. You may have seen this guy at least once or twice in your feeds somewhere on social media. His real name, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, is Kirill Tereshin, a Russian micro-influencer deemed the Synthol king after injecting his arms with copious amounts of Synthol, a synthetic oil which bodybuilders and some deranged, mindless maniacs use to inflate their arms or muscles to make them look bigger. And he actually started this journey in one of the weirdest ways. Most people don't know this, but he was an MMA fighter before all of the other stuff happened, but a poor one at best, like a real amateur. He started to inject petroleum jelly in his arms to look more intimidating whilst fighting, and it got to his head really fast. And he started doing this when he was 20 years old. He's 27 now and has had many complications during this time.
Ну, конечно, все говорят, это уродство и так далее. А я считаю, что это красиво, и мне это нравится. Я всегда мечтал иметь тело Халка, не только...
And despite claiming at this time for what is probably clout and rage baiting, not sure about that, but we're gonna go with it, to be a professional fighter and a bodybuilder, he certainly did anything but actually work out or actually fight.
I'm professional man, natural, bazooka hands. I'm professional bodybuilder, Mr. Olympia, muscle, naturalis. A Kung Fu Pro, master.
I mean, once his arms got to a certain size, it seems like everything else that had ever actually mattered in life, like actual achievements, things that have accolades, those paths, they just dissipated. And the only thing that mattered now was just getting freakishly large arms for social media clout. Because, you know, that equation, the value equation's worth it. I'm gonna waste my muscle in life injecting oil every single day in my arms to get social media clout. It checks the boxes. I mean, he also tried to use his quote-unquote looks to pull women and start a pickup artist series on YouTube.
Хочу найти настоящую верную любовь. В основном мне все девушки попадаются. Хочу себе простую, ту самую любовь. И мы посмотрим, смогу ли я познакомиться или нет. Ой, блин, девчули, вы так смотрели на меня через окно. А я вам понравился, да? Я красивый такой, да, был? Да? А вот в чем я красивый, вот, что меня все хотят так? Ну вот смотрите, вот честно скажите, вот переспать со мной возможно сразу же, ну, потрахаться? Или нет? Да? Понял. Ладно. Спасибо.
This went about as well as his Synthol journey.
Ну я сам вообще страшен или нет? Просто 2 минуты стоял, смотрел, такое личико миленькое, вот так все ровненько. Вам, наверное, 33 года, да? Угадал? Вот, мама тоже смешно ездила, правильно? Не хотите поговорить немного? Такой вопрос, вот, не по теме. Ну, я у всех спрашиваю, когда последний раз у вас секс был? Так интересно. Привет. Давай познакомимся. А? А вы слышите меня? Ну, можем, пожалуйста? Ну, блин, вы такая красивая, простая. Просто хотел познакомиться.
And his face was more swollen than his arms from injections at this point. I mean, just his lips. Look at those lips. They're fucking massive. And the best way to describe what his arms look like are 2 sacks of milk hanging off of a rack with mold developing in them because they've been sitting out of the fridge too long. In his arms, you can see bruising and dark spots and coagulated blood that's not able to circulate because of all of the massive amount amounts of oil. I mean, we're going to talk about how much was in there. Now, in the head of Kirill, he probably looks great. He probably thinks that this is awesome. He's getting attention and he's getting fame and everybody's coming to take pictures of him. But to you and I, it's a clear form of body dysmorphia and psychological unhealthiness. Things aren't normal in his head, but his body is a further testament to that than anything else. But this isn't as rare as you might think. It's actually a pretty common phenomenon. Whatever. Synthol abuse and use is something that you actually see quite commonly. You see it on bodybuilding stages all across the world and on Indian TikTok a lot, interestingly. Even the highest levels of bodybuilding on the Olympia stages are using Synthol in a lot of places, but it gets passed off very regularly as looking like normal injection swelling or just because they have crazy muscle. I think we all know that muscle doesn't normally just sit in a way that a lot of these guys have their muscles looking. Even if you do have extremely large muscles, they don't just round off of your body like a tent being held up with a stick. However, a lot of these guys in a lot of these cases just make it a big enough muscle to have it pop, to be, extraordinary for sure, but not to go crazy. The goal isn't to create this entirely abnormal muscle, especially when you're on a bodybuilding stage. It's just to inflate a little bit of how you already look. If you got great shoulders, let's make those shoulders just a little bit more round without getting too crazy. But in the case of the subject of this video, there's no bounce. It's just get as absolutely much oil as possible into your arms. And surely the oil has been seeping all over his body because he also has the delusion that he thinks he's a rapper.
На груди золото, каждой сучке нравится это. Но я холоден, каждой не люблю париться летом. Со мной в постели лишь модели ман.
But beyond just the bodybuilding stage and this guy, I mean, you see this stuff a lot in terms of this type of abuse too, all over the world, mostly in these third world country scenes where I don't really understand what the point is. You do see this happening frequently. In this case, I think it's sort of like an appealing thing to the culture. I feel like maybe the culture itself maybe embraces it and just doesn't understand its complexity or what's happening. But I think most people looking at it would be like, okay, that dude's doing something a little fishy. Them arms don't look right. If I put a safety pin to that motherfucker, it probably would pop. God, imagine how much that would actually stink. Like, that would be just the most disgusting thing. Almost as bad as these pimple patches. Like, look at this, dude. He literally, he's skipping every day in the gym. Not even just leg day. Every day in the gym, but Synthol day. Homie could be blown over by a chicken flapping its wings. Bailey, I think we could call this one of the worst forms of body dysmorphia that's ever existed. The most work involved in getting somebody to look like this is just finding out where to put all of the oil to achieve such a build. At least with bodybuilding, you have people doing things that are absolutely insane, definitely body dysmorphia, but they're working their asses off for it. At the end of the day, they get some accolades for doing it. But this is just, I mean, what do you get out of this? It's just pure delusion at the end of the day. And it isn't all sunshine and rainbows. It's not just happy-go-lucky.
I made my money off social media and I'm gonna bounce afterwards.
Because here's the truth. I actually did Synthol for like, I don't know, a couple of months, 4 years ago. I wanted to make my arms look bigger. Now, obviously, I didn't want to make them look bubbly or balloonish or like a saggy bag of milk. I was only doing 3 to 4 mLs in each of my arms, which is a very small amount in comparison to what many, many people, even bodybuilders, are injecting in all of their other body parts. However, during that time, it was absolutely miserable. We're talking 9, 8-ish injections a day of just Synthol trying to go into each different muscle head of my arm. Each of those injections, you had to use a big syringe, like a harpoon style syringe, so like a 25 gauge at the absolute smallest to get that shit to go in. And it is painful. You know, injecting into your arms multiple times, intramuscular deep injections is painful. Like, blood gets everywhere. It squirts everywhere. And after the fact, it's not like it's just all said and done and then it's all good. You move around, it hurts. You train with weights, it hurts. It always hurts. And part of that hurting is the proposed mechanism that you might actually get permanent benefits from the Synthol. Whether that's actually true or not mechanistically, it's hard to say. But the fact of the matter is, it's delusional. I was delusional. Further, I looked like a drug addict, man. I mean, you'd have like literally a dozen needles sitting in your bathroom garbage can with bloody alcohol pads all over the place every single day. I did it for like 6 weeks, and I never did it again. It was one of the worst experiences I've had with bodybuilding. I thought it would be an answer to my problems. It was ultimately just a bigger problem in and of itself. Wrong guidance, wrong place, wrong time. You know what I mean? It is what it is. You learn from doing the stupid shit. That's why I'm here talking to you guys. That's why I talk about a lot of these things, because I've done them before and I've made those mistakes. Of course, though, it did work. I mean, my arms looked great at the time, and you know, it was cool, but the cost to benefit analysis definitely didn't sort itself out for me. And you slowly, after some time of doing this, come to a very sharp conclusion about the long-term sustainability of doing this. And I'm just going to explain a bit of it to you. Basically, these big bolus injections raise intracompartmental pressure in your muscles. This compresses capillaries, nerves, and other things that are extremely important, causing pain, numbness, and extreme tissue necrosis. You starve tissue of delivery of blood and oxygen, and it dies. Also, on top of this, your immune system does not like getting pounded with tons of oil. A lot of this stuff is also non-biodegradable and is seen as a foreign object by your body. This causes macrophages to fuse into giant cells, granulomas form, fibroblasts lay down collagen. I mean, you get fibrosis, nodules, stiffness, deformities in the arms that can persist for an entire lifetime. All of this leading to permanent architectural changes to the arm that are not what you're thinking, and chronic inflammation for years. Then if oil hits a vein and the oil is forced into blood vessels, which with that frequency of injections and the amount of oil pushing in, very normal, very common, those droplets of oil can actually get into your blood and then into lungs, causing a very massive respiratory reaction. Coughing, trend cough is a similar kind of thing. And in some cases, a lot of people joke about the trend cough, but that shit can be life-threatening. It can actually cause a truly life-threatening event. All in all, you might think,
Well, if that's the only risk, not a big deal.
if that's what you told me, I'd be like,
Okay, dude, I'm out.
but I didn't know that at the time. But there's more, you know, and the reality of it is, in which most people don't talk about, is that muscle in and of itself becomes less functional because you're blocking its function in terms of how a muscle is supposed to contract. Let's say you got 2 sticks and you want to pull those sticks closer together. You put a rubber band in between those sticks and you tighten the rubber band and those sticks pull together. You loosen the rubber band and those sticks pull apart. But now, in between that rubber band, you put a huge ball. And that ball stretches the rubber band up. Now the sticks are always bent. And you tighten the sticks, or you tighten the rubber band, the sticks don't go anywhere because they're already maximally compressed. You can't loosen it because this big ball's in the middle. And so you're stuck with the sticks sitting like this. And that's kind of what's happening to your muscle. It becomes stiff, non-functional, non-stretchable. It hurts all the time. It's just a really weird situation to be in. None of this even mentions the fact that infection really is a high probability when doing this. You're gambling with the fluids you're getting because most of them are purchased from online sources, unless you're truly just injecting food oils, which actually does happen quite a bit. But also the amount of times that you are injecting, in my case, having to inject multiple different muscle heads. So sometimes it'd be 3 to 4 muscles per arm. I mean, that's a lot of injections and a lot of potential bacterial infections and potential long-term issues developing from those bacterial infections. And funny enough, this is exactly what happened to Bazooka Hands. According to his doctors, during an emergency visit, he had injected already over 3 liters of oil regularly. This is not just a one-time thing, regularly into each arm, which is becoming solidified, calcifying, and actively shutting off blood supply to the muscles and tissues in that arm. His body, his muscles, his actual fat, his everything underneath his skin was rotting because of the oil. He had to get 2/3 of his own triceps removed so that he wouldn't have to amputate his entire arm. This was after raising funds in an act of help from an activist that was anti-plastic surgery. She had raised all of the money for him. He spent it to get the surgery done so he didn't have to amputate his arm, got it done, and what did you imagine he does? Goes right back to do the same shit. After this surgery, he had 2 more additional ones and they tried the best they could to save his arms, and then he started to really spiral, do lots of different different things on social media. For instance, he got into a series of quote-unquote fights, if you want to call them that, one of which was with an old man that was twice his age, and he still lost. He lost every fight that he ever joined. He then had a series of public outcries for attention, getting more plastic surgery on his face, the giant lips situation, and continuing to move to Bali during the entire Ukraine-Russian war thing. Very interesting, as he was living in Russia, oddly. But all of this brings us to the same problem happening over and over again. After having people raise him money to have surgery to save his arms, he's going through more surgery because, well, he's doing the same shit and more tissue's going necrotic. Now it's on his other arm, and he's had to pull out his bicep.
You can see the difference in size. See that? It's pretty obvious. You see? This bicep is flat, and this one is oval-shaped. So, that's what I mean. Just a reminder, the bicep consists of two parts. It's divided like this. The muscle is on the left and right sides. And it was exactly from the left side that we cut out this piece. We removed 6 centimeters of volume. So now, this arm is 49 centimeters, and this one is 56. 6 centimeters, that's a chunk like this that was sticking out at the top. That's a lot. It looked something like this. Well, you can see for yourself. See, this oval is sticking out. And here, it's pretty much gone. See? There you go.
Yeah, doesn't seem like the guy is getting any better anytime soon, and in fact, he's getting much, much worse. At this point, he's basically like a doll, Mr. Potato Head. His arms are just a surgeon's best dream or nightmare. I don't really know. Pulling it apart, putting it back together, pulling it apart again, putting it back together as he's injecting more oil into them constantly. I mean, this is literally some body horror level stuff. Like, I just imagine the behind the scenes of all this. It really is disgusting.
In 2026, sometime in August or by the end of the year, my bazooka arms will be completely gone. All the foreign substance will be surgically removed from my body as much as possible. Just a reminder, in 2017 I injected 6 liters of Vaseline into my arms. And for 8 years now, this foreign substance has been inside my body. At 20, I admit, I made a mistake and started injecting foreign substances into my body. But now, at 29, I realize it's time to get rid of everything I've injected into myself. That's the Vaseline in my arms and the fillers in my face, specifically my chin, lips, and cheekbones. And in 2026, the detransformation of my body will be complete, and I will return to the way I looked 8 years ago and start going to the gym. Thank you all.
Now, I don't know about you, but I'm really keen to see what happens. I love internet drama. I love me some internet drama, especially when somebody's life is spiraling. Gonna happen to me one day, no doubt. But for now, I get to watch and spectate, and it's great to see because life is deranged, and watching that derangement unfold, unlike anything other. My thoughts are that probably this surgery is going to happen and his arms will shrink down and they will go down to nothing because he obviously can't keep this up. They're just going to keep going necrotic and slowly killing him. This necrosis will literally kill somebody. That he'll lose an entire limb this time as opposed to just the part of his arm that like you're losing functionality. You're cutting out muscle. This can't be good at all long term, but I'm sure losing the entire arm is probably less preferential to having some of your muscle cut out, and that's probably the next step. I guess I'm just keen to see how he unfolds after that happens because his whole persona, his entire internet personality, everything that he has ever done entirely from the moment he went viral to the moment that we're talking about right now is because of what he's done to his arms. And it's not been some kind of ho-hi cheering kind of virality. It is like, oh my God, look at that guy's life really go to shit kind of virality. So once he loses those, once they're gone, the signatures of bazooka hands, what happens? Does he just fade into irrelevance? Well, probably.